Let's switch gears now and talk about examining issues on shaping Nigeria's politics, such as security and democracy, from the arrest of Al-Qaeda-linked Ansaru leaders to a Canadian court ruling describing the APC and PDP in the same breath as terrorist groups, to questions about campaign promises of the present government, opposition politics, and even talks of former President Goodluck Jonathan throwing his heart in the ring ahead of the 2027 presidential election. What are the stakes? Tonight, I'm being joined by a former senator, do I say a former activist, a public intellectual, Senator Shehu Sani, is live for us tonight. Thanks so much, Senator, for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel, TELECAST TV. I'm Miracle Angala. You're watching a conversation with Senator Shehu Sani. Can Nigeria be free of terrorism? Speaking about the state of the country as against terrorists. Endeavor to watch to the end. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, subscribe, like, comment, and share your thoughts. Don't miss trending videos.
For someone who had closely monitored what is going on in the Northeast and the northern region of the country, especially, you have had your own intervention of wanting to see how peace can be restored in the Northeast when the Boko Haram terrorism started in the initial step. When you heard that the Al-Qaeda and Saru linked leaders were arrested, what came to your mind?
Thank you for having me in your program. Well, it is a fact of history that in the last 15 years, the northern part of this country has come under sustained attacks by a plethora of terrorist groups. In the northwest, it's been known to be bandits who exist in clusters, with Zamfara being the hub. They kill, they kidnap, they extort ransom from people. And in the northeastern part of Nigeria, you have a defined, organized terror groups with local and global networks. The most popular one is the Boko Haram and the ISIS. But over the years, we have seen the rise of other smaller terror groups and terror cells with the same strategy, objective, but different identity. You have the Ansaru, you have the Mahmudawa, you have the Lakurawa, all those names. And all these are terror groups engaged in these acts of bloodshed and extortion. Now, this has been going on for a very long time. And the activities has seriously destroyed lives and livelihood in the north, education, agriculture, and so many things. So the recent news of the arrest of leaders of this Ansaru, I think it's a testimony to some efforts that have been invested over the years. And it is a question of to the Nigerian state that terrorism in Nigeria is not peculiar to us. It's the same cancer, a menace that is being faced by Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and parts of Chad. But it is incumbent on us to tackle our own issues, but we can only work in collaboration and network with our neighbors for us to achieve results. So the arrest does not mean that the terrorism has come to an end, but is a significant milestone in terms of the war we have been fighting and the situation we have found ourselves in the last 1.5 decades.
Senator, the National Security Advisor says Ansar Emir, Mahmoud Muhammad Usman and his deputy, those two could be regarded as one of Nigeria's most wanted militant linked to these Al-Qaeda affiliate. And this sting operation took several weeks. And it will appear to me that the arrest also yielded some digital evidence with cross-border links to the Sahel. What concrete follow-through do you think this government could make as part of a success? And how much of a success in any way could this be for us in leading us to a possible end to Boko Haram and their affiliates terrorism in the northeastern region of the country?
Well, I will answer it this way. But what many people don't understand is the difference between terrorists and bandits. Bandits...
They're not the same.
They're not the same. Bandits are the ones in the northwestern part of Nigeria. So these are gangs of criminals that exist in small clusters. They're in Zamfara, they are in parts of Kaduna, Niger, Katsina, and Sokoto State. They are driven by the need for them to acquire proceeds of their own crime. So they are not driven by any ideological or philosophical background. Terrorists define criminal organizations with political, social, and religious agenda. They are in pursuit of a theocratic state where they are called Islamists. And the difference between them and the bandits also is that they have other network, like the Boko Haram is linked to Al-Qaeda and the ISWAP is linked to ISIS. And you know, when you are linked to terror groups outside of your country, it means that the one in your country is an affiliate of a global terror network. So the terror groups are more sophisticated, are more armed, and they have an agenda for the whole country. If you talk of the bandits kidnap, extort money, and release their suspect. But these ones have an agenda. For example, if Leah Sharibu was in the hands of bandits, she could have been released because their objective is simply to extort money. But the terror groups have other religious agenda for the whole country. And they also have a global leadership where they receive command and instructions on what to do. So these are the fundamental issues. Now, the suspects that were arrested were part of a terror group, perhaps a breakaway from Al-Qaeda or the ISWAP, and then they have their own called Ansaru. So if an Ansaru is in control of a village, they will impose their own aspect of Islamic rule, and they have an imam, and they have code and other ethical stipulations for their own society. Now, this is what they do. So the arrest of these two persons is a major victory for Nigeria.
Is there something that we do not know? Something more that you can tell her? The Ansaru Emir, that's how he's being regarded, yes, and his deputy. How powerful are they in the scheme of things?
But when they said this is an Amir, it means that he's the spiritual leader of that group, and he is also the link between that group and its external organ. And he is also the main supplier of logistics to the activities of the group. So when such kind of person is apprehended, is a major setback for the group and a major victory for the country in terms of being able to annihilate that aspect of terror groups we are linked with. Their arrest will not bring an end to terror attacks in Nigeria, but for that very group which they lead, at least there is a strong seal that has been imposed on them. And it is demoralizing for other members when their leaders are arrested. And it's also a step forward to the ultimate aim of achieving victory over the terror group's network countrywide.
And discussing this in the same breath, it's ironic and very interesting, actually. The ruling in Canada about the two political parties have reacted to this. When that kind of situation happened, do you think that is an overreach, or it reflects just a bit of what that organization, that entity feels about what APC and the PDP as political parties stand for.
You see, a lot of things are said about our country, and we seem to belittle our prestige and our role in history. That is why you hear people outside of the country calling Nigeria a nation of scammers, of fraudsters, a corrupt people, and terror and whatever. But if you go through history and see the role Nigeria played, there is no country in this continent or outside of this country that has made enormous contributions to global peace and stability. I will go a bit of history. Before Nigeria's independence during the Second World War, Nigeria was drafted to fight in Europe. Nigerians fought in Europe against the Nazi Hitler. We fought in East Africa when Mussolini was trying to occupy Somalia and Ethiopia. Nigerians were in Burma. Nigerians were in Philippines. This was the record before even our independence. Just immediately after our independence, 60s, Nigerians were in Congo to restore peace and order. And you see the role we played in the 80s in terms of bringing peace to Somalia under UNISOM. And see the role we played in Liberia and Sierra Leone. We are also in the forefront of the fight against apartheid colonialism in Southern Africa, particularly in South Africa. We lend support, logistics, and training to the revolutionary fighters there. We've supported MPLA in Angola. We supported Frelimo in Mozambique. Now, this is a country that someone will sit down comfortably in Europe or United States and simply cast aspersion and defame us and try to destroy our identity, while for all these things we have done to humanity, we got no credit for it. Now, a court in Canada, an obscure court, whether it's a magistrate or a high court, will sit down and look at a nation of 230 million people and see the biggest of their political parties that preside over their affairs are terror groups. I think it's time for everyone to learn to speak for this country. I don't think that it makes any sense. And I read a legal opinion on it. Someone was perhaps a minister under Obasanjo administration, and then he has an issues there. And the reference was made. Yeah. So we are too big as a country for a judge in Canada to look at us and say our political party.
A sweeping statement.
Yeah, we as a nation, we just mark 8 years of the attack on Hiroshima. U.S. threw a bomb and killed over 250,000 people.
Nagasaki.
And nobody is calling them terrorists. This is a nation that has not colonized, have not occupied, we have not looted, we have not destroy and enslave other persons, and then you look at us, a nation of 250 million people, and say that
the inference
it doesn't make any sense at all.
Was the activities that goes on with by members of relating to members of these political parties, where we see political violence and subversion. Those are some of what has brought up that statement in that courtroom, to have brought that appellation of terrorist or violent political party activity.
Well, it's just what I'm saying. U.S. has two parties, Democratic and Republican parties. All their presidents have been engaged in bombing other nations and killing people. In United Kingdom, the Conservative and Labour, they have prime ministers who are also involved.
And Trump was almost
in
killed
attacking and killing people or parts. But they let such kind of courts declare them as terror parties. So it is simply trying to cast aspersion of our country. And it's not only limited to Canadian court, but this is a narrative that we as Nigerians must stand up and speak. We have made sacrifices for the peace, stability, and progress of humanity like no other country in the world. We should be giving credit for that, and we shouldn't take it. I can remember there was a time a magistrate gave a ruling against Rwanda as President Paul Kagame, and the response was swift. You can't sit down somewhere in a court in a city that is unknown and of no value to us as a country and look at us and tell us that we have political parties that are terror groups. It makes no sense, and we shouldn't give credit to that, and we shouldn't give audience to such kind of ruling.
I was going to ask you, though, because your own state, when you, Kaduna, experienced a huge pressure from these bandits, and we saw some kind of approach different from what happened under your former, your good friend, Nasir el-Rufai, the former governor, and the present governor, who is also your very good friend, Sani. The approach are different. Nasir el-Rufai had said we should go into the bush and the forest and bomb these guys off. But it does look like Sani's approach is more of a carrot, and maybe he's achieving the result. In comparative analysis, what is there a lesson to learn for the rest of the states that are battling similar problems, how to tackle insecurity other than the bullets and the guns?
Well, since Sani took over office in 2023, he was able to study the political configuration and the conflicts and the hotspots in the state, and came up with this idea that if we have been using bombs and bullets to exterminate these terrorists and it's not possible, why don't we try a different approach? And then he experimented with this idea of dialogue with these bandits, and it worked. But something miraculous about it was that he was not the first to initiate a dialogue. There was one time years ago you have dialogue in Katsina that never worked. When Masari was a governor, there was one time you have dialogue with Motawalli when he was a governor, and it never worked. And other governors in the north tried that path. But the uniqueness of that of Ubasani is that it worked. Bruningwari, which is a local government in the central part of Kaduna, used to be the hub of terror groups and criminal bandits. There are some communities that are virtually under the control of these terrors, and you can't move. And they move from Bruningwari and launch attacks in Kaduna and even Kaduna-Abuja Road. And whoever is kidnapped from Abuja or Kaduna is being taken to Bruningwari and later transferred to Zamfara. Now, Ubasani, with the help of National Security Advisor and other agencies, have been able to achieve that feat. Now you have peace in Bruningwari. People can drive any time of the day. So I wonder why other governors have not adopted that. But I have read somewhere where a certain governor said what happened in Kaduna cannot happen in their place. But why don't they give it a try? For the first time, we have actually a governor that has been able to achieve this feat, and the cases of kidnapping or ransom and terror attacks are very limited in Kaduna. So you can give that credit to him.
All right. Let's take a breather. But when we come back, I'd like to know what Senator Shehu Sani feels about a plausibility or possibility of a Goodluck Jonathan's return into mainstream political presidential contest in 2027, and some of the voices emerging against Tinubu and the APC, perhaps the promises made and the performance that was. We'll be right back. Thanks so much, everyone, for staying with us. Our closing moments now with Senator Shehu Sani. Senator, during the 2023 campaign, President Tinubu promised economic revival, anti-corruption strikes, reforms, and 2 years later, his opposition and his critics are saying poverty remains stubbornly high and policy progress is sluggish. And there are talks about the emerging opposition coalition. They're saying the only agenda they have is sending President Bola Tinubu back to Lagos. And we're in fact hearing that former President Goodluck Jonathan there are whispers that he may have his heart and his eyes in the game on 2027. What do you make of what is going on?
Well, first of all, I don't speak for the government, but All I know is that economic reforms program anywhere in the world is not easy. And for any nation that has a vision of the future, sacrifices need to be made. That became the foundation for greatness of nations like South Korea, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. We have to make sacrifices for the future. And we're in a democracy. It is within the rights and the ambit of our democratic experiment or law or rule to have an opposition that will give an alternative. But if their only a cause for power is to remove Tinubu without providing any alternative to governance of his own style, then they have no agenda. And let me be very frank on this. The people that constitute the coalition today are not ideologically and philosophically different from the programs which the Tinubu administration is prosecuting. So it's not like you have a Marxist and a capitalist or a new liberal and a conservative. They all, during their campaign and in their dear lives, you can see those liberal values of devaluation, removal of subsidy, and so many things. So it's like the team A of ruling power and team B. Now, in the case of Jonathan, each time there's an election, you see the name of Jonathan coming up, but it is his own volition to try to contest. But I advise him not to do that. The reason for that is very simple. The PDP he used to know is not the same PDP now. The PDP in the Southwest are endorsing the president and some of his members of their party. They are in the coalition. So he is not going to be in the party that he used to know. So he shouldn't waste his time.
Thank you so much, Senator. We're certainly out of time. That's our show for tonight. And thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Sean Kimale.